This Thanksgiving holiday, I took time to reflect on what I'm most thankful for in this crazy year of mine. And there's a lot to be thankful for. What's in the news with stories on military-industrial complex financial news, military-industrial complex murder news, military-industrial complex border security news, more military-industrial complex border news, Julian Assange, and finally, some peace news. Also, a Marode segment on private firefighting is in the spotlight. This episode is brought to you by Zencash, now known as Horizon, a cryptocurrency that infuses privacy, anonymity, and security done right. Also brought to you by SmartCash, an easy-to-use, fast, and secure cryptocurrency that supports everyday use for everyday transactions.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week. From the state where fireworks are actually legal, this is the show that will bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at The Lava Flow Pod. This is episode 113, Thankful, and it's Tuesday, November 27th, 2018, when there have already been more than 857 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at more than $21,785,300,000,000 in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. Last week was Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving for me is generally a time of reflection, and this Thanksgiving was a reflection in spades, primarily because of the major changes my life has seen since June. If you were listening back in June, then you heard of my crazy news that I lost my job of nearly 3 years, my high-paying director of IT job that brought me to New Hampshire and allowed me to be a part of the Free State Project. I was laid off the week before PorkFest because the company was in major financial trouble and I was a high-cost employee. It was a bit of a shock to the system. To say I was terrified was an understatement. How was I going to feed my family? How was I going to make the mortgage? How were we going to make it? Well, 5 months after that event, I am here to report that we survived. As a matter of fact, I can say that we have thrived. So much so that right now, I am thankful that I was laid off. It was perhaps one of the best things to ever happen to me. Let me explain. As you all know, part of my reason for moving to New Hampshire as part of the freedom migration known as the Free State Project was to find more freedom in my life and the life of my family. To truly see what living in freedom is all about. While I immediately found more freedom from government in New Hampshire versus Arkansas, and from that perspective it was a success, I was still not living fully free. I was spending 60 to 70 hours a week away from my family in commute and working in an office for somebody. Now, between all of the various projects I have going, I am living extremely free, freer than I ever have. All of my work is done at home, surrounded by my family. I can take extra long lunch breaks and watch Star Wars with my boys in the middle of the day, or end up accidentally high as a kite like I did a few weeks ago when I was taking what was supposed to be a CBD pill that had no THC in it, and I was taking it for my back. But boy, were they wrong. I can stop in the middle of the day to help my wife with the dishes or to bring groceries in and put them away, or just a quick kiss and a cuddle just for the hell of it. Now, I'm technically working more hours than I was at the office that I was laid off from, but only technically. Between the IT project with the medical device startup I've been brought into, the audiobook narration, the podcasting, the podcast editing and posting for non-Pax Libertas shows, and the other various sources of income that I have, I am staying so busy. But goddammit, it feels good to be this free. So while being laid off was terrifying to me at the time, I can honestly say today that I am most thankful for losing my job this year. It has helped make me more free, strengthened my relationships with my wife and my boys, and allowed me to pursue so many interests and ideas I never thought I would have the time for. In a few months, you will see a project coming out of Pax Libertas Productions that would not have been possible without me losing my job. I'll talk more about this in the coming weeks. I'm also thankful for authors and audiobooks. I just landed an incredible contract to narrate a book on artificial intelligence that is just a really, really great book. I'm enjoying this book so much, and I'm so thankful to be doing this one. I'm also thankful that I was able to spend the holidays with some amazing friends. Thanksgiving Day was with some really great friends who are expecting their first daughter, and we are so excited for them. Then on Sunday, we had our annual Feast of the Free Coast, where I was able to spend the day with over 100 of my other friends. What an amazing holiday. It is such a freeing feeling to be able to spend your time with your intentional family, your chosen family, instead of being stuck spending it with people that you have little in common with except for blood. I could not continue to do this podcast without my awesome supporters, so I am thankful so much to you guys. Everyone who gives as little as $1 an episode, to those of you who go way above and beyond by giving $30 or $40 per episode. Holy cow. Each one of you makes this show happy, and I am so thankful for all of you. I'm also thankful for the work I'm doing, from this podcast to my IT contract and everything in between. And in that regard, I'm thankful for the friends I have here in New Hampshire that wrapped their arms around us when we were in the midst of the throes of job loss and offered everything from money to jobs to any other sort of help you could imagine. Being a part of this intentional family is just so incredible. So I'm also thankful for the Free State Project for bringing together such an amazing group of people to one location to help us all achieve liberty in our lifetimes. But absolutely the most important, I am thankful for my family. I would not be where I am today without them and their love and support. My wife and my 2 boys are my rock and my safe space. Have you subscribed to the Lava Flow on iTunes or any mobile device yet? Then what's wrong with you? Go to thelavaflow.com/subscribe so you don't miss a minute of the show. And while you're subscribing, make sure to leave me a 5-star rating and review the show to help others find our podcast. thelavaflow.com/subscribe.
It's time to shake up your podcast feed, folks, by subscribing to Lions of Liberty, the only libertarian variety show out there. Spend Mondays with me, Mark Claire, as I feature in-depth interviews with great names in the libertarian community and fun roundtable discussions.
Electric Liberty Land with me, Brian McWilliams, every Wednesday, your weekly dose of comedy, culture, and liberty.
And Felony Fridays with me, John Odermatt, where I expose injustice in the broken criminal justice system.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and at lionsofliberty.com.
This is Chris Spangle, and I am the host of We Are Libertarians, which you can find in iTunes, Google Play, or at wearelibertarians.com. We are a podcast that brings you all of the irreverence that modern politics deserves by examining current events from a libertarian perspective. So please, check us out at wearelibertarians.com.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In military-industrial complex financial news, the Pentagon has failed what is being called its first-ever comprehensive audit, a senior official said, finding U.S. Defense Department accounting discrepancies that could take years to resolve. Results of the inspection, conducted by some 1,200 auditors and examining financial accounting on a wide range of spending including on weapon systems, military personnel, and property, were expected to be completed later in the day. Deputy Secretary of Defense Patrick Shanahan told reporters, "We failed the audit, but we never expected to pass it," adding that the findings showed the need for greater discipline in financial matters within the Pentagon. Never expected to pass it? And therein lies the problem, folks. They knew there were problems, and they refused to fix them, even when expecting an audit. That's government for you. They have no incentive to fix the problems. Shanahan said areas the Pentagon must improve upon based on the audit results include compliance with cybersecurity policies and improving inventory accuracy. In a briefing with reporters, he did not provide a figure detailing how much money was unaccounted for in the audit. Inventory management? Seriously? I mean, this is something that retailers have perfected for decades. This is just embarrassing. A 1990 federal law mandated that U.S. government agencies be audited, but the Pentagon had never faced a comprehensive audit until this one was launched in December. And why should they? It's only taxpayer money that's being pissed away. In military-industrial complex murder news, the United States has waged a drone war in Yemen for 16 years, trying to suppress al-Qaeda's branch there. But the campaign has a hidden cost. Civilians cut down, by the drone's missiles. There's no comprehensive count of civilian deaths because of the difficulty of confirming identities and allegiances of those killed. But in an examination of drone strikes this year alone, the Associated Press found that at least 30 of the dead likely did not belong to al-Qaeda. This is around a third of all of those killed in drone strikes so far in 2018. The Pentagon does not release its assessment of the death toll, but an independent database considered one of the most credible in tracking violence in Yemen counted 88 people, militants and non-militants, killed by drones this year. The AP count gives a glimpse, even if incomplete, into how often civilians are mistakenly hit by drone strikes, at a time when the Trump administration has dramatically ramped up the use of armed drones. It has carried out 176 strikes during its nearly 2 years in office, compared to the 154 strikes during the entire 8 years of the Obama administration, according to a count by the AP and the Bureau of Investigative Journalism. The AP based its count on interviews with witnesses, families, tribal leaders, and activists. Most of those killed, 24, were civilians. At least 6 others were fighters in pro-government forces, meaning ostensibly on the same side as the U.S. When a third of the people you're killing are innocent civilians, you have got a huge problem on your hands. This is not collateral damage. This is a complete disregard for life. Fuck war in the neck. Zencash has changed their name to Horizon to better represent their transition from a pure cryptocurrency to a pioneering platform that protects consumer data. They're focusing more on the wider vision of what Zencash was all about. The new name, Horizon, reinforces that the project is forward-thinking and visionary and will broaden the horizons of what the community can accomplish in the world using the platform. Not only is it one of the best privacy-oriented cryptocurrencies with zero-knowledge technology built into it, but they also have private chat over their network. And soon, Horizon will include the ability to publish information and go anywhere on the web, all with complete privacy. They are working toward the day when anyone will be able to build privacy-based applications on the Horizon platform and generate income from them. This will allow Horizon to bring thousands of real-life services to the community. Services that provide freedom, utility, and privacy. The unique spelling of Horizon is a nod to their heritage and recognizes that they remain committed to the vision that their project was built upon. Their coin and ticker symbol remains Zen. So Zencash is now Horizon, and Horizon is bringing privacy to life. You can learn more at horizon.global. That's HORIZEN.global. In military-industrial complex border security news, using thousands of military troops to help secure the southwest border will cost an estimated $210 million under current plans, the Pentagon told Congress. The total includes $72 million for approximately 5,900 active-duty troops providing support to Customs and Border Protection, plus $138 million so far for 2,100 National Guard troops who've been performing a separate border mission since April, according to reports sent to Congress. A copy of the report was obtained by the Associated Press. After the AP published its story, the Pentagon released a statement confirming the active-duty portion of the deployments it estimated at $72 million. It did not mention the $138 million in National Guard costs, of course. They had to try to soften the blow as much as they could, I suppose. The total would grow beyond the current combined estimate of $210 million if the active-duty mission is extended beyond the current completion date of December 15th. Officials said an extension appeared likely, but had not yet been agreed upon. The $72 million cost includes $19 million for personnel, $20 million for transportation of personnel, equipment, and supplies, $28 million in operating expenses, and $5 million for concertina wire and other border barrier materials. And in more military-industrial complex border security news, President Donald Trump's administration is considering giving U.S. troops on the border with Mexico the authority to carry out medical screening of migrants, U.S. officials told Reuters. The proposal, which is still in draft form and circulating within the administration, would involve the military in screenings for things like illness and injury, only if U.S. Customs and Border Protection agency personnel were overwhelmed and unable to do so on their own, the official said. The proposal would expand the mission for the Pentagon, which said previously it did not expect its forces to directly interact with migrants. You mean just like every single government program ever, this one is likely going to expand? The U.S. officials who spoke to Reuters about the proposal did so on condition of anonymity because Trump has not yet signed off on the idea. It was unclear if the proposal, if confirmed in the coming days, might prolong the deployment of at least some troops at the border. Anything to look tough to the conservatives who want to protect their borders, I suppose. Smart Cash is an easy-to-use, fast, and secure cryptocurrency that supports everyday use for everyday transactions. Smart Cash is focused on getting the currency back into cryptocurrency, and their vision is to replace centralized fiat currencies in day-to-day life. Too many cryptos talk about being used as a currency, but they are all focused on something else and leave user experience for both merchant and customer by the wayside. Smart Cash is focused on being used for business payments and POS through such features like their Instant Pay, which allows for trusted transactions in a second, powered and secured by their 20,000 user-run smart nodes. Smart Cash also has a Smart Hive proposal system that is funded by the blockchain, where any user can put forth a project proposal to expand the community, ecosystem, or technology. Holding one smart equals one vote, so all users can participate in voting without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to run a full node. The people working on Smart Cash are broken up into 6 different Smart Hive structuring teams with dedicated team members that are completely funded by the blockchain. There is no CEO, no foundation, no centralized leadership, and there is no need for outside investors to come in and compromise any deals. Check out Smart Cash today at thelavaflow.com/smart to find out how they are putting the cash into Smart Cash and the currency into cryptocurrency. I believe this is truly a ground floor opportunity to get in on a rising tide. Get a wallet and find an exchange to purchase Smart Cash at thelavaflow.com/smart. In Julian Assange news, Jack Posobiec, a former naval intelligence officer, is reporting that Julian Assange will not be indicted over the publication of the hacked or stolen Democratic National Committee emails. Instead, the Department of Justice is going in another direction with an Assange indictment. According to Posobiec, the DOJ indictment focuses on the posting of the Chelsea Manning leaked Iraq War material and the posting of State Department cables. I wonder when the DOJ will be going after all of the so-called legitimate news agencies that reported on the same information with the same documents. I won't hold my breath. Also, Ecuador's government has refused Julian Assange's lawyers access to him this weekend, although the embassy is manned 24/7 to prepare for his U.S. court hearing on Tuesday, reports WikiLeaks. There's speculation that Ecuador will soon be turning Assange over to American authorities. Reports are circulating that Vice President Michael Pence personally has been involved in negotiations with the turnover of Assange, and that Pence has assured Ecuador that the United States government will not seek the death penalty for crimes it alleges Assange has committed. The DOJ clearly has a hard-on for Assange and WikiLeaks. With this new Ecuadorian administration in office, I will not be surprised at all if they hand him over, personally. And finally, some peace news. Since the 1953 armistice of the Korean War, all roads within the demilitarized zone have been severed. On Tuesday, for the first time since then, a single road will be reconnected by the two Koreas. South Korean officials described the road as unpaved and in Gangwon province. The two sides will coordinate on this first road connection as part of recent deals to improve tensions. The two Koreas remain technically at war. A year's worth of diplomatic progress has both sides seeing the end in sight for the war, and the deal will not only see this road connected, but also a rail link at some future point. These are the start of what could become formal connections between peaceful neighbors. How far off that is anyone's guess, but both Koreas have expressed interest in reaching a peace deal soon. The big obstacle to that seems to be the Trump administration, go figure, which has expressed opposition to any such deal until North Korea fully disarms its nuclear program, which they concede will take many years. Leave it to Trump, the warmongering conservative, to be upset that millions of people are on the verge of real peace and prosperity for the first time in decades. Exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode, or use Bitcoin. Get exclusive content, rewards, and help the Lava Flow become fiscally neutral while providing you more content. thelavaflow.com/support.
Are those dry, boring, run-of-the-mill political talk shows putting you to sleep on your commute or at work? Are you ready for some fun?
Look no further. Blast Off with Johnny Rocket is a Seattle-based podcast expressing viewpoints of free markets, voluntary exchange, badass music, wicked banner, and of course, drinking.
The Blast Off doesn't shy from the truth, but always brings the party.
Let's rock and roll, Raylene.
Bring it on, Johnny.
You can check us out at thelaunchpadmedia.com/blastoff.
Again, that's thelaunchpadmedia.com/blastoff.
Launchpad Media. Always launching ideas in your direction.
And now I'm crying over you.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Well, we're going. We don't need roads.
Now, I haven't done this segment in a while, but I have a perfect reason to do one today. Apparently, while California was burning to the ground, Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's home was saved by, gasp, private firefighters. God forbid. The successful defense of the $60 million mansion is the most prominent example of a trend that's begun to receive national attention. For-hire firefighters protecting homes, usually on the payroll of an insurance company that has a lot at risk. The insurance companies AIG and Chubb have publicly talked about their private wildfire teams. AIG has its own wildfire protection unit, while Chubb and up to a dozen other insurers contract with Wildfire Defense Systems, a Montana company that claims to have made 550 wildfire responses on behalf of insurers, including 255 in just the past 2 years alone. Right now in California, the company has 53 engines working to protect close to 1,000 homes. But liberals are, of course, all up in arms about this because, well, equality. Apparently everyone should have had their homes burned to the ground equally, and that would have made the liberals happy. Remember, boys and girls, equality is a race to the bottom. Private firefighting, though, is nothing new. In London, firefighters worked explicitly for insurance companies during the 18th and 19th centuries. The economist Annalise Anderson wrote, in the development of municipal fire departments in the United States, each insurance company maintained its own fire brigade, which extinguished fires in those buildings insured by the company and, in return for a fee to be paid later, in buildings insured by other companies. The United States might have been expected to inherit a similar system, but instead, volunteer fire departments became the most common means of fire protection. Insurers might give bonuses or other support to these groups, but firefighting was primarily a civic rather than a commercial enterprise. These fire clubs were important social institutions, often commingling middle-class and working-class men of many ethnicities in the virtuous activity of defending their city from a fire. David Torgerson, the president of Wildfire Defense Systems, disputed any characterization of his particular company as fighting fires only on behalf of the rich. 90% of the homes they protect, he said, were average-value homes, contracted through normal insurers, not the specialty companies that take on high-net-worth individuals' properties. He said, if the fire hits Malibu, there will be a lot of high-value houses. If it hits somewhere in Utah, there won't be. In either case, he says, Wildfire Defense Systems will respond. Many types of regular old fire insurance can come with his company's service. He said, we serve nearly a dozen insurance companies. If anybody wants to have this supplemental response capability during a fire, they need to pick an insurance company that has it. If we have a growing problem with wildfire, and it is statistically getting worse, why limit the ability to bring resources that the taxpayer doesn't have to pay for and policyholders don't have to pay for? Not everyone would say this is a bad thing. The late libertarian economist Fred McChesney argued that private for-profit production of fire services yields lower average costs than the costs of government provision for equivalent levels of output. Arizona State fire historian Stephen Pine said, the trend to privatize fire operations began seriously under the Reagan administration, and it is now a full program complete with lobbyists. This goes far beyond private companies hired by insurance companies. And good that it does. Now, I'm not all about the lobbyists, of course, but the reason we have lobbyists is because we have a government system that is all about power and how the politicians are able to distribute that power. Lobbyists are the symptoms of the issue. The root cause is political power. Historian Amy Greenberg, proving that liberals' heads really do explode when things like this happen, said, "This isn't a story of the kooky Kardashians doing things in the most publicity-friendly manner possible. It's a story of the ramifications of economic disparity in this country. Frankly, I'm flabbergasted. Firefighters are consistently ranked the most beloved public servants, not just because they look good on calendars, but because they treat everyone equally. Rich people don't get their own better firefighters, or at least they aren't supposed to." But don't they? And shouldn't they? I mean, let's take out the idea of who owns this property in question, because I'm no fan of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. But from a purely investment, economic, and insurance perspective, what is more important to save? A $100,000 house or a $60 million house? A neighborhood of $100,000 houses or a neighborhood of $60 million houses? Clearly, the loss of the $60 million house would be more expensive to the bottom line of the insurance companies and also to the bottom line of the economy as a whole. Nick Sarwark, the Libertarian Party chair, said, "Rather than envy their relatively good fortune, we should be grateful for the extra firefighting resources made possible by insurance companies hoping to minimize fire damage losses. Not only did private firefighters save the West Kardashian home, they also likely saved an entire neighborhood from going up in flames. At the very least, the work done by these extra firefighters provided a measure of relief to public firefighters who were already stretched to the limit." According to CBS News, an insurance policy that includes firefighting services costs an extra $2,500 to $8,000 a year, a precaution that can benefit the entire community. Sarwark also said, "In a fire-prone city like Calabasas, that's money well spent, not only for the insured, but also for their neighbors." Now, some of the headlines about this topic shows just how utterly ignorant liberals are on the topic of economics. Here are a couple of the most ridiculous headlines. "America's firefighting is turning into a two-tier system with private services for the 1%. This article had an image of the cover of Atlas Shrugged on it with a picture of Kim and Kanye on the cover. "As California's wildfires raged, the ultra-rich hired private firefighters." The subhead for this specific article was, "Kim Kardashian and Kanye West were among those able to save their homes. But whether or not your home burns down shouldn't depend on wealth." Holy Rothbard, the ignorance is palpable. As has been mentioned, the fact that this private firefighting team worked to save the home of West and Kardashian meant that the entire neighborhood of multi-million-dollar homes was saved. Their neighbors are very happy about that, I can assure you, and so are the insurance companies and the economy. According to Lawrence M. Vance of the Future of Freedom Foundation, there's absolutely no reason why the provision of firefighting services cannot be handled by the free market. He goes on to list 10 reasons why they should. Now, this is a bit lengthy, but I want to read it to you in its entirety because it is that important. Here we go. First of all, according to the National Fire Protection Association, the NFPA, of the 33 million-plus calls to fire departments for services in 2015, 2.5 million were false alarms, 21.5 million were for medical help, and only 1.3 million were for actual fires. The provision of emergency services should be separate from the provision of firefighting services. And as Ryan McMacken of the Mises Institute points out, an enormous number of firefighters could be replaced by paramedics using much less expensive vehicles, and no one would even notice. Second, although firefighting is an essential service, that doesn't mean that it has to be supplied by government. Hospitals provide an essential service, but they're privately owned. Doctors provide an essential service, but they don't work for the government. Well, yet anyway. In many large cities, taxi companies supply an essential service, but they are not owned by governments. The provision of food is certainly one of the most essential services throughout the United States, since only a very small percentage of Americans are farmers. Yet the provision of food is entirely left up to grocery stores competing with one another for customers on the free market. Third, the fact that 71% of all fire departments are already staffed entirely by volunteers clearly demonstrates that government firefighters do not need to staff fire stations. Fourth, it would not be redundant to have more than one fire department in a city or town any more than it is redundant to have more than one gas station, restaurant, clothing store, strip mall, barbershop, grocery store, nail salon, bar, or movie theater. Fifth, competition among firms is necessary to ensure low-cost, quality services for consumers. By nature, a government monopoly does just the opposite. Sixth, it is because of government that Americans don't have private firefighting services, not because of market failure. Government interference always distorts the market. Seventh, it is not the purpose of government to provide services. Libertarians alone consistently maintain that if we are to have a government, its role should be strictly limited to the protection of life, liberty, and property from the violence and fraud of others. Eighth, if the government is to provide firefighting services, then where does it end? Once firefighting is accepted as a proper function of government, what logical argument can then be made against the government's providing pest control services, lawn mowing services, haircutting services, eye exam services, house painting services, accounting services, banking services, nanny services, insurance services, or travel agent services? Ninth, putting out fires is a job. Just as digging ditches, mining coal, selling cars, editing magazines, mowing lawns, managing a company, truck driving, writing books, running a cash register, and waiting tables are jobs. There is nothing special about firefighting. Yet government firefighters are regularly held up as heroes just for doing their jobs. And 10th, to say that the private funding and private provision of firefighting services just won't work simply manifests the statist thinking and anti-market bias that is all too prevalent in American society. It works for a host of other services that Americans use every day. It wouldn't begin to think that the government should provide. The fire stations in the United States should be freed from government funding and control as a matter of principle. To focus only on firefighter salaries, benefits, overtime, and union memberships is to miss the big picture, that of service provision in a free society. These things may be important from the standpoint of how taxpayer dollars are used, but they are not sufficient in and of themselves to prove that fire stations should be free. That is the same mistake conservatives make when they call for the elimination of some government funding, program, or agency because it has a liberal bias, funds pornographic art, is inefficient, performs abortion, has a lot of waste and fraud, or is too intrusive, instead of arguing that it shouldn't exist in the first place. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite Cyber Monday partner, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/113. I've got a new supporter this week. Isaac C. became a $2.50 per episode supporter through Patreon. Wow! Thank you so much, Isaac. That is such a huge help. So thanks to Isaac and all of my awesome supporters, I am now at $291.50 per episode, or 58.3% of the way towards my next goal of $500 per episode. Thank you for all of your support, guys, really. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I'm going to be upping the content I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you. So add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting today. So exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a per episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Federal Reserve notes through Patreon or Bitcoin through Coinbase. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. I have 2 new Apple Podcast reviews this week. Libertarian Cattleman said, "Hardcore. The non-voting concept is tough. I've been indoctrinated well, but I'm working on it." Roger aptly covers the news from a libertarian perspective without sounding like he's getting boring. He's always fresh. Looking forward to this show every episode. Thank you so much, Cattleman. I know the non-voting issue is a tough one. It was for me too, but I finally got there. I totally get it. Kaylee145 said, "Top 5 Liberty Pod. Lava Flow, Part of the Problem, Free Man Beyond the Wall, Electric Liberty Land, and last but certainly not least, the Madrox deprogram. All tell it like it is and pull no punches." Thanks so much, Kaylee, for putting me in such awesome company. All of those guys are awesome, and I've been on 2 of those shows as a guest in the past. And if you have a minute and you want to hear your review on the show, please go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids are doing it. Thank you to everyone who has left me a rating and a review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.